The 1999 TommyKaira ZZ2 is a car that every wannabe JDM Skyline bro would be having wet dreams about. If it existed, this particular prototype, with its GT1 style aero, never left the planning stage, as the one that appears in later games looks a lot more refined and supercar Y, rather than race car Y. Planned to be a replacement for the ZZS, the ZZ2 definitely looks like it's been flown through a garden center, prior to being added to the game. And fly it did, being powered by a TommyKaira tuned RB26, to just shy of 600 horsepower, strapped to the rear axle, weighing in at just 1,020 kilos or 2,250 pounds. Coupled to its short wheelbase and race-bred suspension, it certainly would have been a handful to drive in real life, alongside its production-ready model, known as the ASL Garage. Yes, I too was stunned by the sudden change of name, but one of the main parties involved with the project from the start, Autobacks, bought the associated rights to develop the car further, because of classic corporate bureaucracy, or just TommyKaira were running out of money or something. I don't know, I'm not a baif. Now, with that little history lesson out of the way, let's actually learn how to drive this wet dream of a car. As this is a powerful, light, mid-engined car in GT2, it suffers from what I've dubbed the 25/30 FPS syndrome, where, if you were to run the game at its intended clock speed, the physics would only update every second frame. This makes all mid-engined cars practically undrivable, especially on bank turns. It isn't as severe as with the Lotus Elise GT1, which we've already covered, but it's still there and will catch you out, even if you know what's coming. The ZZ2, being a powerful, light, mid-engined car, tends to understeer at low to mid-speed corners, if you have sports tires equipped. In order to do not go off track, as you approach a corner, you need to brake early. That's it. Well, not exactly. You need to turn the car in the direction you want to go, but make sure you're off throttle until going past the apex, as the weight of the car would be transferred towards the back, making you lose front-end grip and forcing you to the outside of the corner. Once you're past the apex and not in too low of gear, to have the rear end step out, hit the accelerator and zoom towards the next corner. Of course, this applies if you're driving the car without tuning it in any way, apart from the aforementioned sports tires. To help amend this flaw, we'll have to fiddle around with the suspension and differential a bit. First off, add the suspension. Let's lower the car by 15 points on both ends, to around 100 meters of clearance. Next, set the bound and rebound stiffness at the front and the rear to 4 and 6, and 6 and 8. Respectively. Change the toe angle to 0.05 at the front and -0.05 at the rear. The transmission, I just set it to 15 on the auto slider, but you can do the transmission flip, if you like. Finally, the differential, low initial torque, high torque under acceleration, low torque under deceleration. Braking, feel free to fiddle around with the tires, aero, but I find the car being the most satisfying to drive if left on racing medium tires and stock aero values. Right, now to see how this legend stacks up against the leaderboard, we'll need to get someone to drive it for a single, timed lap around our track. Some say that come springtime, his overalls get hay feather. All we know is that he's called Steve. The car is lined up neatly at the start, and he's off. Slight bit of wheel spin coming at the start, as Steve elected to forego the super soft tires alongside aero, as in testing he said it made the car too touchy. Nice and clean past the carousel, with a slight bump of the inside wall right before the thumb, as he goes way too hot and clips the outside wall. This is going to be a rough one. Past the chicane, braking early for the corkscrew, to get the car rotated, and onto the throttle. Wow! Slamming hard on the brakes for the barrel, in this McLaren F1 look-alike, using all of the track. He manages to get a mega exit onto the back straight. He mistimed his braking through the roundabout chicane, drifting it onto the lead up. Taking a wider line through the final turn to maximize track width. And across the line. Steve, even if that lap wasn't the cleanest, managed a blistering 122.237. The car, in this guise, has never existed in physical form, not even as a prototype, and with its only digital appearance in GT2, you too can now properly experience of what could have been, as the later iterations may be cool and quick, but none hold the candle to the raw vision of the man who designed it. Goodbye and thank you for watching.